What working 40 hours a week should cover the cost of food and housing. The fact that working 40 hours a week doesn't cover the cost of food and housing, that should scare all of us. If you are working full time and you're still falling behind, put a me in the chat, because either millions of us suddenly forgot how to budget or the system is wrong. Again, 40 hours a week should cover food and housing. If you work full time and you're still falling behind, put a me in the chat. Because when did survival, not luxury, survival become not possible after working 40 hours a week? That's the real question. When did survival not become possible in America anymore? And when did full-time work no longer mean stability? That's what's so crazy. And look, people will say it's laziness, right? Because that's what we do. We blame other people. We are more productive than any generation in the history of America. We are producing more. Then why do we have less? That's the question. It's not just us. If you had 6 months of savings, 6 months, we're all supposed to have 6 months of savings. Would you tolerate the job that you're in currently? Would you accept the disrespect and the bullshit that your boss makes you put up with? So savings is what creates freedom. And if savings is what creates freedom, why doesn't the majority of people have savings? I don't think that's an accident. That is not an accident. Glam, let me tell you, because you are not understanding what we are saying. Let me put it this way. Like, you cannot quit your job tomorrow, and that has nothing to do with investing, right? If your boss fired you tomorrow, could you survive for 6 months? Not would you like to, not do you want to, but could you get by without a job? Type yes or no. Because that's the whole problem. People don't have savings, and rather than understanding the system makes it so that we don't have savings, we think it's a personal problem rather than a political one. That's it. You think we have a political problem and that people's financial issues are their own. We don't. What you're not understanding is Americans have a leverage problem. If most Americans need their job to survive, they don't have leverage. They're simply dependent. And when the majority of people are dependent, that means we're stuck. And guess what? This didn't happen by accident. Wages didn't just stay the same for a decade because we stopped being productive. No. Costs didn't just rise. We all saw it during COVID. Companies are gouging us. There's a reason 40 hours a week doesn't cover the basics anymore. And once you see it, it's impossible to not see. The reason they keep people broke is because when you are fighting for survival, you're not fighting for change. That's all that actually happens. Most Americans are not free because how free you feel directly is dependent on how much money you have. Having savings is leverage. In a bug's life, the ants always knew that there was 100 of them to one of the grasshoppers. But it wasn't until the ants understood, oh, we control the grasshoppers' food supply. The grasshoppers rely on us just as much as we rely on them. Or no, more than we rely on them, right? So the whole thing is we work 40 hours a week. If you work more than 40 hours a week, put it in the chat, because some of you are working 50. Some of you are working 60. And somehow all of those don't cover the basics, right? Food, housing, and healthcare. It didn't used to be normal. Clam, this is what you're not thinking about. The previous generation, it was not normal for somebody to work 40 hours a week and still be struggling, right? That's all it is. And what you're also not understanding is that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Somebody can have a factory, but unless they have 1,000 people working at that factory, they're not going to create anything. Someone can sell a lot of stuff online and be bold. But unless they have all of the drivers to deliver those packages, they're not creating anything, right? And that's what's so frustrating is people think this is personal, right? And that's where people do not understand our economic situation affects our political one. Yinam, that's exactly what they want you to believe. Screw finances, we need to stop the government. What do you think we are talking about? Because if you are trying to fight against somebody and the person you are fighting against controls your food supply, how do you plan to fight them? If you want to fight somebody, but the person you're fighting against controls your water supply, what do you expect to do? Right? So that's why they have made most of us not understand that our economic situation affects our political one. And it didn't used to be normal for the majority of people to be broke. They made you think it's normal for 80% of Americans to not have money, like you did something wrong, right? Because here's what it is, Glam. If it was just 5% of people struggling, I'd be right with you. If it was 10 or 20% of people struggling, right? But it's not. It's 80% of people. And that's not personal. It's engineered. We are all driving on a road. And when people are having to drive off that road to avoid the bumps, you're blaming the drivers. At what point will you blame the road? It's like if we go to a rigged carnival game and you see that all these people are failing at this rigged carnival game. How many people have to fail before you actually say, all right, something's wrong with that carnival game? You don't want to be the person that blames the individuals, right? And what's even funnier are the people that's like, oh, that one political party, they're the problem. But my political party, they're the answer. What kind of level do you have to be to believe that one political party loves you and wants nothing more than goodness for you? And then you believe the other political party is the opposite? Guys, don't be a sucker. Don't be a sucker. Anytime you point fingers left or right, you are playing into the hands of the billionaires. You're being manipulated. The problem is not left versus right. Both sides have had their chances for decades, and neither of them has improved life for regular working Americans. The problem isn't politicians. The problem is the corporate system. The corporate system that controls all of our food and our housing and our healthcare. They have all the money. JJ, give me about 10 minutes. I'll get to the solution. So I'm going to talk about something that explains a lot. We don't lack just money. We lack leverage. If we all had 6 months of savings and then your boss told you to come in the next day after a 13-hour shift, what would you say? Yes or no? You would say, no, screw you. Exactly. But right now you can't, right? Right now you can't because you don't have savings. And that's not by accident. It's not that they just forget to raise your wages, right? The boss knows if you don't have savings, you're going to do whatever the boss says because you rely on that job for the things you need to live. That's all it comes down to. If you can't walk away, if you can't say no, screw that, you don't have any power. Power is the ability to say no. That's all we're trying to get to, is get to a situation where we can tell the corporations, no, we're not doing it your way because your way only works for you and it's been screwing all of us over for decades. Like, look at health insurances. Glam, I don't know what you are defending because we're basically saying, hey, corporations don't care about us. Regular working people get the short end of the stick, whether it's companies that create food trying to get us addicted to things that are terrible for us that aren't even food, whether it's health insurance companies that we pay our entire life money to, and then they just decide not to give it to us. Power is the ability to say no, right? Manny Red, this is what's so funny. Do you really think America's in its golden age? Why do people get so angry when we just point out, I don't think America's as great as it once was? That's all we're saying. America's not in its golden age. And when it was in its golden age, it was something called shareholder capitalism, community capitalism, where it's essentially, if we think about it, corporations are there to serve communities. Corporations are there because corporations are just groups of people that want to make money. That's it. So that corporation needs the community to make money. Because if the corporation wasn't there, the community would be fine. The community has the food, has the housing, has the health care. The corporations just were supposed to facilitate those things. But here's the bullshit about our system. It's not that smart. When we're one emergency away from collapse, you are stressed, right? You're stressed all the time. We're all stressed all the time. And when you're stressed all the time and you're broke, what do? We look for the people that are causing it. If you are stressed and you are broke, we're like, what the hell is going on? Who's doing this? So we look for someone to blame. And guess who has the loudest microphone? We all know it, right? The frickin' billionaires. That's what this is. So instead of people asking, why are the majority of people broke? They bury their head in the sand, right? They bury their head in the sand. Or we fight about all the things that don't matter, right? Oh, you don't like the American way? No. I am a business owner with 30 employees, children, living a wonderful life. I just think that when people work 40 hours a week for a company that brings in billions of dollars in profit, it's a little fucked up when that company holds classes for their employees to learn how to get on medical assistance. Walmart holds classes for its employees to get on housing assistance. Do you know who pays for that? Right? So, yep, we fight about what? Foreign wars, things that do not affect our lives whatsoever. Immigration, culture, red versus blue. Do we not see that the missiles are also a distraction? Anything so that you're not thinking, Why am I working 40 hours and still not able to make ends meet? That's the whole thing. They just don't want us thinking about it. That's why you're constantly, every 30 days, oh, rent's due again, bills are due again. Hop back on that treadmill because we can't have you having the time to think about all this. What we do is we argue about symptoms. The symptoms are what we fight about, right? Because Tracy, you got it. If we all ask just this one question together, all we have to say is, why? Why are things like this way? Things weren't like this in the 60s. Things weren't like this in the 80s. And the big difference is the system used to work for the people. Now the economy works against us, even though we're the ones who make all the money, right? And here's where people really get it wrong. We think power is voting. We think power is protesting. We think power is being louder. Bullshit. Power is controlling the food supply. Power is controlling housing and energy and healthcare. Power is controlling what people need to live. And the people that control those, that's not you. That's not me. That's why it's always so funny when people get angry at me. I'm like, I'm just pointing out that the ultra wealthy control the economy, that the ultra wealthy control the media, and the ultra wealthy control politics and energy and healthcare. But then people get upset, right? But that's why it doesn't matter how we could get 100 million people to protest, and it doesn't matter. Because if we are yelling on Saturday, but then on Monday we have to still go buy groceries from them, or we have to go buy our insulin from them, you can't bite the hand that feeds you if that's the only way you get food. And they know that. So corporations, Jeep Junkie, why are you making it? They are not human. Y'all, that is part of what they want you to believe, because then you overreact, right? It's like if you walked into the doctor's office and the doctor told you that you had cancer, but no explanation, no reason, no cure, right? You would freak out. Your mind would start jumping to crazy things, right? Oh, those people simply aren't incentivized by the system to make decisions that hurt other people because it's better for them. Oh, it's a lot easier just to say they aren't human, right? And so that's a big issue, is that we don't actually go towards the real cure, right? That's the thing. We allow it to be distracted by 1,000 different problems, and that's what they want. The farther we go down the rabbit hole, the less we are actually solving the problems in front of us. Because the problem in front of us is that we need to be the ones controlling our food. We need to be the ones controlling our health care. We need to be the ones controlling our housing. Because here's the twist. Corporations don't grow your food. A farmer does. Corporations don't provide health care. Frickin' doctors and nurses do. And corporations, they aren't the ones actually building your homes. The guy that sits his ass in the truck, he's not adding any value. It's the dudes putting up the frame of the drywall, laying the foundation, running the electrical wires. They're the ones. Appreciate that, Jordan. Because damn, they keep us broke. Because if we don't have any savings, we literally can't say no. How can you have freedom of choice if you don't have enough money to make choices? That's what it really is. Corporations sit in the middle and they control access to the things we need to live. That's it. So the problem isn't that we are lazy. The problem isn't that we don't know how to budget. The problem is we don't control our food. So corporations know, oh, we can jack up the price on food, because what are they going to do? Not buy food? That's the problem. If they control what we need to live, all the essentials, we don't have any freedom of choice. So we're forced to purchase all of our food and our housing and our healthcare from the corporate system. Then the very same corporate system who we give all of our money to turns around and makes sure that we don't have any leverage to take back power from the very same system that we funded. And so that's why what we are trying to do is build back the leverage that we need, not just to ask for change, but to actually demand it and build it ourselves. And the only way we can do that is if we control our food and our housing and our healthcare. Because you know what real power is? Walking away. If we don't need the system anymore, we can go, oh, screw this. We're able to work with our community to get everything that we need. That is true freedom. And that's what localism is. That's what we're building towards. Tony, how you doing today, sir? Floor is yours.
I am magnificent, my brother. Thank you for inquiring. How about yourself?
I am doing great. Got my tea, ran some errands, doing good.
I also ran some errands today. Stopped by the local butcher.
Nice.
A buddy of mine opened a local butcher shop in town. You know, and it's like, at this point, what we're asking people to do is take a hard look in the mirror and say, am I a doer? Am I a helper? Or am I a victim and a complainer? And it feels like bootstrapping when I say that. And it is very close to that. I'll admit it. But there's no part of my message about localism that says you have to do that alone. People are already getting together in groups in their community to buy directly from wholesalers, cutting out the middleman. And we're talking about groceries, household cleaning products. There's ways that we can build cooperatives in our own neighborhoods. And you don't need an official nonprofit. You don't need an official LLC. You don't need to do that. In some cases, if you buy from a wholesaler, you do need an EIN. But that's a pretty easy thing to get. What we're asking is think about all of the ways that corporate America has infiltrated your everyday lives. And not only that, scale it all the way up the chain. And the fastest way I can think to prove our point here is look at that big file drop that's been ravaging the internet for the last few weeks. How do you keep that glued together? Money. Lots and lots of money. And those very corporations supported that system. And guess who supported those corporations? We did. And the reason they ballooned to such astronomical heights is because they eliminated all their competition. Competition being small and medium-sized businesses. And when you have the conversation through that lens, you understand why we are so hell-bent on community activism and building alternatives to corporate giants. Dude, we lost like 30 people for that. They hate it. They hate it when I go on my localism tirades, man. It's because there's no suits coming to save you. James Tallarico and his Obama impersonation is only going to carry him so far, guys. I hate to break it to you.
I'm glad you feel the same way about him.
It's as soon as he starts talking, I'm like, bro, as somebody who loves to do voices, I've done impersonations my whole life. I love voiceover work. I love animated series work. And as soon as he opens his mouth, I'm like, bro, you're doing an Obama impression. It's so painfully obvious. And everyone's convinced that guys like him